Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for joining us. Our community is already feeling the pain of U.S. President Donald Trump's auto tariffs. Layoffs have begun. Jennifer LaGrassa brings us tonight's top story, taking a look at the domino effect.
For thousands of Stellantis workers in Windsor, Essex, today is their last shift for a few weeks. The auto company is pausing production at its Windsor assembly plant because of the 25% auto tariffs placed on the industry from U.S. President Donald Trump. Just down the street from the plant at a local diner, some retired auto workers say the trade action needs to end.
It is ridiculous, and they need to do something about him. They need to take care of their country and do something with their president, who's causing all of this.
Of course, they're hurting everybody, and they're going to over here and into the States. So I see there's no reason for them, really. It's going to hurt the city big time.
And while 3,200 workers, according to Stellantis, will be off the job, there's likely hundreds more in our region that will be impacted by this downtime. That's because of the many local companies that feed auto parts to Stellantis. According to Unifor Local 195, the union for some of these facilities, at least 600 jobs could be immediately impacted. One former auto supplier executive says this could be catastrophic.
If we hold with the current tariff rates that we're seeing right now, then we've essentially dropped a tariff bomb and blown up the entire auto industry, and nobody wants that.
CBC News reached out to more than a dozen auto parts suppliers in Windsor, Essex. Few got back to us. One that did said that layoffs have already started. Stellantis says it expects operations to resume the week of April 21st. Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Windsor.
Donald Trump's trade war has ignited fears of jobs being exported to the United States. And now a court decision opens the door for removal of equipment from a longtime Windsor tool and die shop. Titan Tool and Die on Howard Avenue has been granted an injunction from the Supreme Court of Justice. It means that the union cannot block trucks from entering or leaving the property. Earlier this week, members of Unifor Local 195 stopped a truck from leaving the site. It carried equipment the union said is vital to jobs. According to Titan, the equipment belongs to non-Canadian companies, and the shop is contractually obligated to return it at their request. In court documents, the company described the union's tactics as intimidating, threatening, and mobbish. The union did not respond to our request for comment about the court order. Colette Kennedy joins us now for our first look at weather. Colette, how's it looking this Friday evening?
Well, I'll tell you, we've been lucky to get a few dry days in there, but for it to last into a weekend, I think we're going to kind of split the difference here, at least the first part of our weekend wet and then drier after that. And the reason being the same system stateside that I've been pointing out every night for the last few. So for these areas, it's 4 days that they'll be getting into, including tomorrow, where it's just stuck there. However, those bits of energy come our way into southwestern Ontario, and as they do, it sends some of that moisture that it's picking up from the Gulf all the way into our skies. Overnight tonight, 5 degrees with that rain moving in, and then a high tomorrow of 13. Drier on Sunday. I'll have the details coming up.
Thanks, Colette. There is a new Conservative candidate for Windsor-Tecumseh Lakeshore. CBC Windsor has learned that Cathy Borelli will represent the Tories in the riding. She replaces former candidate Mark McKenzie, who was removed due to controversial comments. Cathy Borelli's candidacy was announced by her husband, Paul Borelli, on Facebook today. He's also the president of the Riding Association. Cathy Borelli, who was appointed, has yet to be listed on the Elections Canada website. It's not her first foray into federal politics. She also ran for the Tories in the 2021 election. Windsor-Tecumseh voters put her in third place at that time. An official campaign launch for Borelli remains to be scheduled. Also today, the Liberal candidate for Windsor West, Richard Pollock, officially launched his campaign. The auto tariffs and their impact on local jobs took center stage at his event. Pollock said the community is under attack, adding that the Liberals would defend jobs. He also pledged to lower cost of living and build more homes. He also promised to be a strong voice inside Mark Carney's government. This is Pollock's third time vying for the riding seat for the Liberals against Brian Massey, the NDP candidate. He previously ran in the riding in 2002 and 2004. And on the national campaign trail today, Liberal leader Mark Carney promised to boost funding to the CBC, and he went further than that.
We will not only increase CBC Radio Canada's funding by $150 million, but we will also make this funding statutory, meaning that Parliament as a whole will need to approve any future changes to its funding, not just the Cabinet. By strengthening our public broadcaster, we're protecting our identity and our culture and helping it to shine around the world. We're making Canada strong.
Today in Trois-Rivières, Pierre Poilievre focused on an important issue in Quebec, the issue of intimate partner violence. He said he would introduce a new charge of assaulting an intimate partner, and that anyone charged with that would be denied bail and would have to remain in jail until their case is decided in court. He also said he'd remove a criminal code provision that allows people to claim provocation when charged with murder. That would be essentially claiming a crime of passion where a person loses self-control, and that can be a mitigating factor under the criminal code that can reduce a murder conviction to manslaughter. Poilievre said he would remove that possibility from a defendant charged with murder in an intimate partner violence case. We've seen a lot of message control here on the campaign trail this week. We have not been allowed to ask any questions ourselves from CBC News, and we've also seen some fairly heavy-handed approaches from Conservative Party staffers that have included some pushing and shoving. They hold the microphone themselves. They don't permit follow-up questions. They ask reporters before the news conferences who intends to ask what, which of course is a question that we're not supposed to answer, but which it appears can affect whether people are then allowed to ask questions at all. And today, this being our last day with the campaign, we asked the Conservatives if we could finally put a question to the Conservative leader. They approached me and my CBC colleague Tom Parry, and they said we could ask one, but that it had to be my colleague Tom Parry. We responded that it was my question and that we would prefer that I asked it. At which point they took our question away and gave it to another outlet. So we're seeing a lot of message control, quite different from other parties, but also different from past Conservative campaigns. Having followed the Andrew Scheer campaign and the Erin O'Toole campaign, I can say that there was not this attempt at message control. There was a much freer flow of questions with follow-ups permitted. And also, of course, media were allowed at their own expense to accompany the campaign. Parties do charge media normally to do that. In this campaign, the Conservatives have broken with that tradition of their own party and of the other parties who continue to have media with them. And so we face the logistical difficulty also of keeping up with a campaign that has its own aircraft, and when we are able to reach it, are often not able to get the kind of accountability that we are able to get from other parties. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Trois-Rivières.
Leader Jagmeet Singh is targeting corporate tax loopholes. Singh accused the firm that Liberal leader Mark Carney used to head of being a major beneficiary of those loopholes.
Well, Mark Carney, his position sadly, as the chair of a large corporation, Brookfield Investments, that while he was there, they avoided paying over $5.3 billion in taxes. $5.3 billion. What does that mean? Well, that's 50,000 nurses.
Planks, a review to eliminate tax loopholes, the cancellation of certain agreements with countries he described as permitting tax havens, and a requirement for companies registering abroad to demonstrate an economic purpose before receiving any tax break. Let's shift back to tariffs now. U.S. President Donald Trump faces regular accusations of distorting the truth in his tariff campaign. CBC's Jonathan Gatehouse separates the facts from the fictions.
Donald Trump was claiming the United States subsidizes Canada to the tune of $200 billion a year. This is a claim that Trump has made before, and it's not at all accurate. First of all, he's talking about the balance of trade, the difference between imports and exports, not a subsidy. And the trade deficit that the United States has with Canada is nowhere near $200 billion a year. According to the Office of the United States Trade Representative, the U.S. goods trade deficit with Canada was $63.3 billion in 2024. Down from $64 billion in 2023. And that deficit is largely tied to oil prices, rising and falling with the market. That's because energy, oil, natural gas, and electricity accounts for about 1/3 of the goods Canada sends south. So if you remove energy from the equation, then Canada actually has a trade deficit with the US. Trump also complained that Canada imposes 250 to 300% tariffs on many American dairy products. Those tariffs do exist, but only in theory. They've never been applied. And contrary to what Trump is suggesting here, American access to Canadian dairy markets has actually been growing, with the value of imports from the US exceeding $1 billion for each of the past 3 years. That's a 55% increase from 2020. The tariffs exist notionally to prevent the US producers from flooding the Canadian market. The scale of US dairy production is massive, with Wisconsin alone producing 3 times more cheese each year than Canada does. And they would only ever come into play if agreed upon import quotas were exceeded. And here's something that's important to note. This is all spelled out in CUSMA, the North American Free Trade Agreement that Trump renegotiated during his first term. A deal that Trump hailed as a major victory for the United States at the time. But in his so-called Liberation Day speech, Trump claimed that the US was at its wealthiest between 1870 and 1913. What he terms as the golden age of tariffs before the introduction of income taxes. That's a claim that Trump has made repeatedly, but again, it's just not true. If you look at national wealth as measured by GDP per capita, the US is now 6 times richer than it was in 1913. And all of this, of course, skims over the hard reality of tariffs, that the revenue they generate comes from importers and consumers. So at the end of the day, Americans will be paying more and have less money left in their pockets. Jonathan Gatehouse, CBC News, Toronto.
In the midst of the trade war, the Windsor-Detroit relationship was put to the test on the Tigers' home opener day. Now, while some have sworn off visits to the United States, for many Windsorites, they didn't want to let politics stand in the way of a time-honored tradition. Jacob Barker.
I'm here at the Detroit Tigers season opener, where Canadian fans and American fans alike are taking in the game. The fans that I rode over on the tunnel bus with this morning say that the trade war isn't really even in their mind as they're coming over to catch their game, though some did tell me that the feeling they have this year is a little bit different.
The fans loading on this bus won't be deterred. For them, baseball is baseball and politics is politics.
Well, I haven't started drinking yet, so I guess it does feel different.
Even some Americans coming back from a bachelor party on the Canadian side say things feel pretty normal.
Everyone's very welcoming.
Jody Noah has been coming over to catch the opening day game for years. She says it doesn't quite feel like the usual.
A little bit different, yeah, just because of what's happening on the stateside. So it's just a little bit, I don't know, you just think about things a little bit differently, I think.
It didn't change your mind at all in any way? You didn't think twice about it?
Not for this day.
Why is it so important to you?
Love baseball, love the Tigers.
Changes too coming to the bus they're on. The tunnel bus, a mainstay in the city for years, has been removed from the 2025 budget, and it's being wound down over the next few months.
We thought we would just use it the one last time, and then I don't know why I didn't really look into it, but I'm like, this is a good service to have, and they should try to keep it going, no matter what it's like. There has to be a relationship between the two cities, right?
This bus, someone on board told me, was the last to drop passengers off at this special event. It was marked by the driver with a selfie.
It's terrible, but it's a nostalgic thing for us, but it's a terrible thing for sure for the city of Windsor.
Up by Comerica Park, the party was on, and nationalities were put aside.
If you've got a group of Canadians over here during this kind of tense time, I think you have some love for each country.
That's what baseball does, brings people together, and that's what we're doing now. So,
and we just gotta kind of wait and see what happens. But hey, the Canadians are still our friends, so come on over and have fun with us.
A fun day and a successful one for the Tigers, who won 7-4, and a day for most here to put tariffs and politics aside and just take in the game. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Detroit.
An update now on a story we brought you earlier this week. This ornament on the front step of an Amherstburg home has been causing a stir in the community. Well, now the 4-foot-tall penis-shaped statue has gotten a festive makeover just in time for the Easter holiday. Now, some in the town find it offensive and have asked the town to have it removed, but the mayor says there's nothing in the bylaws that would allow that. Hope that gave you a good little Friday chuckle. Stay with us. We'll have more news after the break. Welcome back. It was another day of precipitous drops in global markets following Donald Trump's wide-ranging tariff announcement this week. The CBC's Kyle Bax looks at the growing fears of more losses and a potential recession.
Trillions of dollars wiped from world markets as American tariffs are met with counter tariffs from around the globe.
China, first row.
The brewing trade wars now escalating and threatening to sink much of the world into a recession. The market woes will hurt many people's investments and retirement funds.
This is dramatic in terms of what's going to do for growth, for cost, for, I think many of these companies. And that's why it continues to be the most absurd thing I've seen on Wall Street covering stocks 25 years.
What drives stock prices is profits. And businesses are looking at their balance sheets and saying, my costs are going up because of these tariffs, and I think my orders are going to go down because consumers aren't going to be buying as much. And that dims profits, and that's what we see happening in the stock market right now.
North American markets crashed Thursday, falling about 5%. Today, another plunge. The main reason is China retaliating with its own tariff of 34% on U.S. goods, further intensifying tensions between the world's two largest economies.
This major sell-off is driven by global growth, which does have implications on Canada. And the reason why it has implications on Canada, one of the largest tariffs was against China, the second biggest economy in the world. That will have an impact on growth here as well, too.
Some market players are now warning this isn't the bottom, with further fallout expected from the trade war around the globe. Kyle Bax, CBC News, Calgary.
There's new research that shows getting the shingles vaccine could significantly lower your risk of dementia. Christine Birak breaks down the findings.
It's a vaccine for shingles. Now scientists say there's more evidence it can lower the risk of developing dementia by as much as 20%.
It would have huge implications for dementia care and also for research into dementia and the causes of dementia.
A new study published in the journal Nature looked at over 200,000 older adults in Wales for 7 years. In 2013, a shingles vaccine was offered to those who were age 79 but not 80. This unique rollout gave scientists a chance to go back and compare two nearly identical groups, one vaccinated, one not.
This is a landmark study.
Researchers found the vaccine reduced the probability of a new dementia diagnosis by approximately 1/5, with the strongest effect in women.
If you consider over the past decades we've had nothing that affects dementia or prevents it, a 20% reduction is a major step in the right direction.
Researchers aren't sure why the shingles vaccine may be protective. They do know shingles is a painful rash caused by reactivation of the chickenpox virus in a person's system. One theory is
just by preventing shingles, it prevents this inflammatory event that might contribute to inflammation in the brain and the development of diseases like dementia.
And to think that there's an added benefit, that's pretty amazing.
67-year-old Kathy Howell got her shot. She's also exercising and playing games to keep her brain as healthy as possible.
It's just good to be always engaged in trying to learn new things.
The shingles shot used in this latest study is an older vaccine, but other studies show the current vaccine offers even better protection against shingles. Researchers say it may also better protect your brain. Christine Birak, CBC News, Toronto.
British comedian and media personality Russell Brand has been charged with rape and sexual assault. British police say there are 4 accusers in incidents between 1999 and 2005. Suspicion around Brand emerged in a 2023 documentary alleging rape. Brand denies ever engaging in relations that were not consensual. He shot to fame in the mid-2000s as a host and comedian on television, then a comic actor in movies. He appears in court May 2nd. When we come back, Colette Kennedy will bring us your full weekend forecast. Stay with us. Colette Kennedy is back with us now for more weather. Colette, you told us some rain is coming, but it's still the weekend, so that's a good thing.
Yes, it is the weekend, and it's not going to be the whole weekend. So we have that to look forward to and hold on to as well. There's hope. Just want to show you kind of the current temperatures, or at least show you many spots around North America. We know where we're sitting here at 9 degrees, but look at this heat, nearly 30 degrees. It's been record-setting heat in the southeastern U.S. and into Florida, and that's due to a ridge of high pressure off the coastline that's holding up everything else that's happening in the continent, especially that nearly stationary front that keeps firing up every day with the severe weather and these flooding risks through parts of the U.S., but that energy keeps coming towards southwestern Ontario every few days, and yeah, tonight and into tomorrow, we're in for the next batch. So some cooler readings, Goderich and Sarnia at 3 degrees there. London and Kitchener still holding, had the sunshine a little bit longer there, so 10 and 11 degrees. Here comes that leading edge of some of these rain showers. So later on this evening, give it a little bit of time. That'll be working its way in. Here's 10 p.m. Still somewhat scattered in nature, but as I roll this forward, there will be a batch of at least some heavier through the overnight hours, some heavier periods of rainfall then. And then by tomorrow morning, it gets a little bit more scattered again. And what's interesting is that right now, the next round of heavier stuff does seem like it's going to be a little bit further south. So with that, we might be spared with just some more scattered showers and keeping things pretty light. If this slides just a little further north, then we're going to have a few rounds of some heavier rain. And watch out Saturday evening, because we're really going to be kind of right on the line there of getting some wet weather coming back in. We do get some of that clearing coming in, at least for early Sunday, so some sunshine setting up and then becoming kind of a mix of sun and cloud later in the day on Sunday. So for outdoor activities and whatnot, that's your travel to your better day of the 2-day weekend here. Rainfall amounts, look at the difference, Windsor versus Leamington. That's how close that line is, and that's just how easily it could shift. And we could have double that amount into Windsor that it's showing. So be aware. All right, overnight tonight, lows around 4 to 5 degrees for Saturday. Still mild with a high of 13. Sunday, 9 degrees after a low of 2. I do want to point out Monday night to Tuesday, we could get into some mixing because of some cold air that's coming right back at us.
Oh my gosh, I'm not looking forward to that, but thank you so much, Colette. And thanks to you all for watching. Have a fabulous weekend. See you Monday.
Good night.